A mother fights to save a wounded Marine from a horde of infected in a ruined supermarket. Her son and loyal dog by her side. Will they survive? Like this video, subscribe, and hit the bell to catch our latest stories. You won't want to miss what's coming next. Mafu. The city of Atlanta lay in ruins on a frigid October morning in 2040. Its once bustling streets now a graveyard of shattered glass, overturned cars, and the stench of decay. The air thick with the guttural snarls of the infected, soulless, bloodthirsty creatures that had once been human. Their eyes hollow, their flesh rotting, their hunger insatiable. A plague that had swept the globe in a matter of months, leaving civilization a distant memory. And Emily Carter. A 35-year-old single mother with skin the color of rich cocoa, her once glamorous features hardened by survival, sprinted through the debris, her breath ragged, her heart pounding, a rusted machete gripped tightly in her right hand, her left arm wrapped protectively around her 10-year-old son Leo, his small frame trembling against her, his brown eyes wide with terror, while May, their loyal German shepherd, ran alongside, her ears pinned back, her growls low and fierce. The trio weaving through the skeletal remains of a shopping district, the infected closing in from every direction, their numbers swelling, their claw-like hands reaching, their moans a horrifying chorus that drowned out the howling wind, and Emily's voice was a desperate hiss as she pushed Leo behind a toppled delivery truck, her body shielding his. "Stay down, baby, we're gonna make it. I promise. Just stay quiet." Her words a fragile lifeline as she peeked around the truck's edge. Her sharp eyes scanning for an escape, the infected now less than 50 feet away, their jerky movements deceptively fast, their hunger driving them forward. And Emily's mind raced. Her years as a runway model in a world that no longer existed, replaced by the instincts of a mother fighting for her child's life. Her late husband's voice echoing in her memory, Dr. Nathan Carter, a brilliant researcher who died in a lab explosion 2 years ago. His final words to her, a whispered plea to protect Leo, to keep him safe no matter what. A promise she'd kept through every nightmare since the plague began. And now, but when as the infected drew closer, their stench overwhelming. Emily spotted a narrow alley to the east, its entrance partially blocked by a rusted dumpster, a faint glimmer of hope in the chaos. And she grabbed Leo's hand, her voice low and urgent. "We're running for that alley, on my count. You stay right behind me. May will follow. You hear me?" Leo nodded, his small hand squeezing hers, his voice a shaky whisper. "I'm scared, Mom." And Emily's heart clenched, but she forced a fierce smile, her voice steady despite the fear clawing at her chest. "I know, baby, but we've got this. We always do." And with a deep breath, she counted. 1, 2, 3, go. They bolted from their hiding spot, Emily leading the charge, her machete raised, her long legs pumping as she slashed at the nearest infected, its decayed arm reaching for her, the blade slicing through its wrist with a sickening crunch, black blood spraying across her tattered jacket, Leo clinging to her side, his small sneakers pounding the pavement, May barking furiously as she lunged at another infected, her teeth sinking into its leg, buying them precious seconds. The alley now just 20 feet away, but the infected were relentless, a group of 5 breaking off from the horde, their shrieks piercing the air as they charged, and Emily's muscles burned, her breath coming in sharp gasps, her focus razor-sharp as she reached the dumpster, shoving Leo through the narrow gap, May scrambling after him, her fur matted with blood, and Emily turned just in time to face the closest infected, its jagged teeth snapping inches from her face. Her machete swinging in a brutal arc, the blade lodging in its skull, the creature collapsing with a gurgle. But more were coming, their numbers overwhelming, and Emily yanked the machete free, her voice a fierce shout. "Leo, mate, keep going. Don't stop." They stumbled into the alley, the infected clawing at the dumpster, their decayed hands scraping against the metal, the barrier holding for now, and Emily leaned against the wall, her chest heaving, her eyes scanning the alley's length. A faint light at the far end, a possible way out. But her relief was short-lived as she noticed a piece of torn fabric caught on a broken window frame. A map, its edges frayed, its surface smeared with dirt. But the words scrawled across it were clear. Survivors at Hartsfield-Jackson Airport, 300 miles south, safe zone. And Emily's breath caught, her mind racing in with the possibility of safety, a community, a chance for Leo to grow up without constant fear. But 300 miles in this hellscape was a death sentence for most, the journey fraught with unimaginable dangers. Yet Emily's resolve hardened, her voice a low growl as she tucked the map into her pocket. We're going to that airport. Leo, we're going to find those people, and we're going to live. You hear me? Leo nodded, his small hand clutching May's fur, his voice trembling but determined. I trust you, Mom. And Emily pulled him close, her lips pressing against his forehead, her heart swelling with a fierce, unyielding love, the kind that had kept them alive through every horror. And as they moved deeper into the alley, the infected still clawing at the dumpster behind them, Emily knew this was only the beginning. The road ahead a gauntlet of death and despair, but for Leo, for the promise of a future. She'd fight until her last breath, her machete ready, her spirit unbroken. The journey to Hartsfield-Jackson Airport, now their only hope in a world gone mad. The dense forest 50 miles south of Atlanta loomed like a wall of shadows on that overcast October afternoon in 2040, its gnarled trees stretching endlessly, their branches clawing at the gray sky, the air heavy with the scent of damp earth and decay, a deceptive calm shattered by the distant shrieks of the infected echoing through the underbrush. And Emily Carter pushed forward, her machete carving a path through the thorny vines, her dark eyes scanning every rustling leaf, her muscles tense, her senses sharpened by 2 years of surviving in this hellscape. Leo trailing just behind her, his small hands gripping the straps of his tattered backpack, his breath coming in quick, nervous gasps, while May, their German shepherd, prowled at his side, her ears twitching, her growl a low warning as the forest seemed to close in around them. The map to Hartsfield-Jackson Airport burning a hole in Emily's pocket, its promise of a safe zone 250 miles away, the only thing keeping her going. But the journey had already taken its toll, their food supplies dwindling to a single can of beans, their water bottles nearly empty. And now, as the shrieks grew louder, closer, Emily's heart sank, her voice a harsh whisper as she dropped into a crouch, pulling Leo down with her behind a fallen log. They're coming. Stay low. Don't make a sound. Her words barely audible over the pounding of her own pulse, Leo's wide eyes locking onto hers, his small body trembling. May pressing herself against him, her fur bristling, and Emily peered over the log, her breath catching as she saw them, dozens of infected, their decayed bodies staggering through the trees, their hollow eyes glinting with hunger, their numbers far greater than anything they'd faced in Atlanta, a horde drawn by some unseen signal. And Emily's mind raced, her machete suddenly feeling inadequate, the forest offering no clear escape, the nearest clearing a half-mile east. Too far to reach without being seen, and as the infected drew closer, their stench filling the air, Emily spotted a shallow ravine 30 feet to their right, its steep walls overgrown with moss, a potential hiding spot if they could reach it in time. And she gripped Leo's shoulder, her voice urgent. We're moving to that ravine, quiet and fast. Follow me. Leo nodded, his small hand clutching May's collar, and they crawled through the underbrush, Emily leading the way, her knees scraping against the dirt, thorns tearing at her jacket, the infected now less than 100 feet away, their moans a chilling chorus. And just as they reached the ravine's edge, May let out a sharp bark, her instincts overriding her training as she lunged at a lone infected that had broken from the horde, its claw-like hands reaching for Leo, and Emily's heart stopped, her voice a desperate shout. May, no! But it was too late. The dog's teeth sank into the creature's leg, dragging it down, the infected shrieks alerting the others, the horde turning as one, their decayed faces zeroing in on the ravine. And Emily acted on instinct. shoving Leo down into the muddy trench, her body covering his as she scrambled after him. May leaping in at the last second, her fur matted with black blood, the infected descending on the ravine's edge, their hands clawing at the air. Their bodies piling up as they tried to reach their prey. And Emily held Leo tight, her hand over his mouth to stifle his sobs, her own breath ragged, the weight of their survival pressing down on her like a physical force, the infected mere feet above them, their shadows blocking out the faint light. And as the minutes stretched into an eternity, Emily's mind drifted, the terror of the moment pulling her back to a memory she'd buried deep, the last time she'd seen her husband, Nathan. 2 years ago in his lab in Chicago, his glasses fogged with sweat, his voice trembling as he handed her a letter, his final words to her before the explosion that took his life. Emily, if I don't make it, keep Leo safe, promise me. His research into a cure for the plague cut short, his death leaving her alone to raise their son in a world that was already crumbling. And she'd kept that promise through every horror, every loss. The memory of Nathan's gentle smile, the only thing that had kept her sane. But now, as the infected clawed at the earth above, Emily felt that resolve waver, the thought of losing Leo or May too much to bear. And she whispered to herself, her voice barely a breath, I promised you. Nathan, I'll keep him safe. I'll get him to that airport. The words a mantra as she tightened her grip on the machete, her eyes darting to the ravine's far end, a narrow path leading deeper into the forest. A possible escape if the horde moved on, and after what felt like hours, the infected began to disperse, their attention drawn by a distant noise, a deer perhaps, or another unfortunate soul, and Emily seized the chance, her voice a fierce whisper, Leo, we're moving now. They crawled out of the ravine, May limping slightly, a gash on her flank from the fight, Leo's face streaked with mud and tears, and Emily led them eastward, her heart still pounding, the forest now eerily silent, the threat of the infected ever present. But as they reached the clearing, Emily's sharp eyes caught something glinting in the dirt, a small, rusted compass, its needle still functional, a tool that could guide them south, and she picked it up, her fingers trembling, her voice a mix of exhaustion and determination as she turned to Leo. This is our way out, baby. We're going to make it. I swear. Leo managed a small smile, his hand reaching for hers, May nudging his leg with a soft whimper. The abandoned supermarket on the outskirts of a ghost town 120 miles south of Atlanta stood like a tomb under the pale November sky in 2040, its shattered windows gaping like empty eye sockets. The parking lot littered with rusted shopping carts and skeletal remains. The air thick with the stench of rot and the faint hum of decay. A place that had once buzzed with life, now a hunting ground for the infected. And Emily Carter moved cautiously through the overgrown weeds, her machete raised. Her dark skin glistening with sweat despite the chill, her senses on high alert after 3 weeks of navigating this wasteland. Leo crouched behind her, his small hands clutching the rusted compass they'd found in the forest, his brown eyes darting nervously, while May, their German shepherd, sniffed the air, her hackles raised, a low growl rumbling in her throat. The trio having survived on scraps of stale bread and rainwater since their escape from the forest horde. Their journey to Hartsfield-Jackson Airport still a grueling 180 miles away. But Emily's focus snapped to the supermarket as a blood-curdling scream pierced the silence. A human scream, raw and desperate, followed by the unmistakable snarls of the infected. And Emily's heart raced, her instincts torn between the safety of her son and the faint hope that another survivor might mean more strength for their journey. Her voice a hushed command as she turned to Leo. Stay here with May, don't move. I'm going to check it out. Leo's small hand grabbed her sleeve, his voice trembling. Mom, don't go. What if they get you? But Emily knelt, her eyes fierce with determination, her hand cupping his face. I'll be back, baby. I always come back. You know that. And with a nod to May, who pressed herself protectively against Leo, Emily crept toward the supermarket, her machete ready, her boots silent on the cracked asphalt as she approached the shattered entrance, the screams growing louder, more frantic, and inside, she saw him, a man, middle-aged, his graying hair matted with blood, his military fatigues torn, his back against a toppled shelf as 8 infected closed in, their decayed hands clawing the air, their jaws snapping, and the man swung a broken pipe with desperate strength, his voice a hoarse roar. "Get back, you bastards!" But his strength was fading, a deep gash on his thigh bleeding heavily, and Emily didn't hesitate, her body moving on instinct as she charged in, her machete slicing through the nearest infected's neck, the head rolling with a sickening thud, black blood splattering across the linoleum floor, the others turning toward her, their hollow eyes locking onto new prey, and Emily fought with a ferocity born of survival, her blade a blur as she hacked and slashed, her voice a fierce shout. "Hey, over here, come on!" Drawing their attention away from the man, who seized the moment, his pipe cracking against an infected skull, the creature collapsing, and together they fought. Emily's machete and the man's pipe working in brutal tandem, the infected falling one by one, their decayed bodies piling up, the stench overwhelming, until the last one lunged at Emily, its jagged nails grazing her arm before she drove her blade through its chest, pinning it to the floor. Its gurgling snarl fading as she yanked the machete free, her chest heaving, her eyes meeting the man's, his face etched with exhaustion and gratitude, his voice rough as he leaned against the shelf. "Thanks, I thought I was done for. Name's Caleb, ex-Marine. You're damn good with that blade." And Emily nodded, her breath ragged, her arms stinging from the scratch, her voice steady despite the adrenaline. "I'm Emily. We're heading to Hartsfield-Jackson. Heard there's a safe zone. You know anything about it?" Caleb's eyes lit up, a flicker of hope breaking through his pain, his voice low. "I do. Been trying to get there myself. It's real. But it's a hell of a trek. 180 miles south. Got a map in my pack. But I'm not in great shape." His hand gesturing to the gash on his thigh, the blood still seeping, and Emily's mind raced. The thought of another fighter, someone with military experience, a potential ally in this nightmare, but also a liability if he slowed them down. And she made a split-second decision, her voice firm. "We'll patch you up, but you're coming with us. I've got a son and a dog outside. We don't leave people behind." Caleb managed a weak smile, his voice gruff. "Fair enough. Let's move before more of those things show up." And Emily helped him to his feet, her arm under his shoulder as they staggered out of the supermarket, the ex-Marine's weight heavy against her, his pack slung over her shoulder. And Leo's face lit up with relief as they emerged, May barking softly, her tail wagging despite the tension, and Emily introduced them, her voice quick. "Leo, May, this is Caleb. He's coming with us. Help me get him to that shed over there. We need to stop that bleeding." They moved to a small maintenance shed 100 feet away, its door hanging off its hinges, the interior cluttered with rusted tools and cobwebs. And Emily set Caleb down, her hands working fast as she tore a strip from her jacket, wrapping it tightly around his thigh, the blood slowing to a trickle. Caleb wincing but nodding his thanks, his voice steady as he pulled a crumpled map from his pack. "This'll get us to the airport. There's a plane there, I've seen it. But the place is crawling with infected. We'll need a plan." And Emily studied the map, her resolve hardening. The thought of a plane, a way out of this hell, igniting a fire in her chest. But as they prepared to move, May's growl cut through the silence. Her ears pinned back, her eyes fixed on the tree line, and Emily followed her gaze, her heart sinking as she saw them, a new wave of infected, at least a dozen, emerging from the woods, their shrieks echoing across the parking lot. And Emily gripped her machete, her voice a fierce command. "Leo, stay with Caleb. May, with me. We're not dying today." Her eyes blazing with determination. The fight for survival far from over. The road to Hartsfield-Jackson Airport, a gauntlet they'd face together. No matter the cost. A relentless November rain battered the desolate highway 150 miles south of Atlanta in 2040. The sky a bruised shade of gray, the wind howling through the skeletal remains of abandoned vehicles, their rusted frames slick with water, the pavement cracked and slick, a treacherous path for the weary group of survivors. And Emily Carter led the way, her machete strapped to her side, her dark eyes squinting against the stinging rain, her body aching from weeks of endless walking. Her boots soaked through, each step a test of endurance. Leo trudging beside her, his small frame bundled in a torn jacket, his face pale, his hands clutching the compass as if it were a lifeline. May padding silently at his heels, her German shepherd fur matted with mud, her ears twitching at every sound, while Caleb, the ex-Marine they'd rescued, limped behind. His thigh wound bandaged, but still raw, his weathered face set in a grimace, his military pack bouncing against his back. The map to Hartsfield-Jackson Airport, now 130 miles away, creased and damp in his hands. The promise of a safe zone, the only thing keeping them moving. But the rain had turned the highway into a death trap, the infected drawn by the noise of the storm, their shrieks cutting through the downpour, and Emily's nerves were frayed, her voice sharp as she glanced back at Caleb. "We need to find shelter. Leo's freezing, and you're barely keeping up. We can't keep going like this." Caleb nodded, his breath ragged, his voice gruff over the wind. "There's an old gas station a mile ahead. I passed it months ago. It's got a roof, maybe some supplies. We can hold up there till the storm passes." And Emily agreed, her protective instincts overriding her exhaustion, her arm around Leo's shoulders as they pushed forward, the rain blinding, the highway stretching endlessly. But the gas station came into view, its faded signs swinging violently in the wind, the windows boarded up, the pumps long dry, and Emily's heart lifted at the sight of shelter, her voice urgent as she ushered Leo and May inside. "Get in, baby, stay with May, I'll check the perimeter with Caleb." The interior was dank, the air heavy with the scent of mildew, shelves toppled, a few cans of expired food scattered across the floor. And Caleb leaned against the counter, his face pale, his hand trembling as he pulled a canteen from his pack, his voice low. "I'll keep watch from here. Go make sure we're clear." Emily nodded, her machete in hand as she stepped back into the rain, her eyes scanning the highway, the surrounding woods, the shadows for any sign of the infected. But the storm had masked their approach, and as she rounded the corner of the building, she froze, her breath catching. A group of 6 infected, their decayed bodies hunched against the rain, their hollow eyes locked onto her, their snarls rising above the storm. And Emily acted on instinct, her machete swinging in a brutal arc, the blade slicing through the first one's throat, black blood mixing with the rain. But the others were fast, their claw-like hands reaching, and she fought with desperate precision, her boots slipping on the wet pavement, her voice a fierce shout. "Caleb, trouble, now!" Caleb staggered out, his pipe in hand, his movements sluggish but determined, his military training kicking in as he smashed the pipe into an infected skull, the creature collapsing. But the effort cost him, his wounded leg buckling, and Emily finished the last one, her machete lodged in its chest, her chest heaving as she helped Caleb back inside, her voice sharp. "You're not okay, let me look at that leg." She peeled back the bandage, her stomach twisting at the sight. The wound was infected, the skin around it red and swollen, a faint grayish tint creeping up his thigh, the first sign of the plague. And Caleb's eyes darkened, his voice steady but heavy. "I know what that means. I've seen it before. I've got a few days, maybe less, before I turn." Emily's heart sank, her mind racing, the thought of losing their strongest fighter, the man who'd given them hope of reaching the airport. But she pushed the fear down, her voice firm. "We'll deal with that when it comes. We need you now. So rest. I'll take first watch." Caleb nodded, his gratitude unspoken as he leaned back, his eyes closing. And Emily turned to Leo, who sat in the corner, his small hands stroking May's fur, his voice soft. "Mom, is Caleb going to be okay?" And Emily forced a smile, her heart breaking at the innocence in his eyes. Her voice gentle. "We're going to take care of him, baby. Just focus on staying warm, okay?" Leo nodded, his trust in her absolute. And as the rain pounded the roof, Emily took up position by the window, her machete across her lap, her thoughts drifting to Caleb's words. Days, maybe less. The weight of what she might have to do pressing down on her. But for now, she focused on the present, the storm outside a mirror to the storm within, the journey to Hartsfield-Jackson Airport, a race against time, against the plague, against the relentless infected. And she'd fight with every ounce of strength she had, for Leo, for their future, for the hope of a safe zone that might still be waiting. The crumbling warehouse 170 miles south of Atlanta stood as a hollow shell against the bitter November dusk in 2040, its rusted metal walls groaning under the weight of a merciless wind, the air thick with the scent of rust and despair, the faint glow of a dying sun casting long shadows across the cracked concrete floor. And Emily Carter knelt beside a makeshift fire, her hands trembling as she stirred a pot of scavenged broth, her dark eyes hollow with exhaustion. Her once vibrant beauty now etched with the scars of survival. Leo curled up nearby, his small body wrapped in a threadbare blanket, his breath steady in sleep. May, their German shepherd, lying protectively at his side, her ears twitching at every creak of the warehouse, while Caleb, the ex-Marine who joined their journey, sat propped against a crate, his face pale, his graying hair slick with sweat, his breathing shallow, the infection in his legs spreading. The grayish tint now creeping up his chest, his military fatigue stained with blood and dirt. The map to Hartsfield-Jackson Airport, now just 110 miles away, clutched in his trembling hand. The safe zone so close yet so far, and Emily's heart pounded with dread. Her voice low as she handed Caleb a tin cup of broth. "Drink, you need to keep your strength up. We're moving at first light." But Caleb's eyes met hers, his gaze heavy with resignation, his voice a hoarse whisper. "You know I'm not making it to that airport. Emily, I'm turning. I can feel it. The fever's burning me up. It's only a matter of hours." And Emily's throat tightened, her mind racing, the signs unmistakable, the grayish pallor, the tremors, the same symptoms she'd seen in countless others before they became infected, before they turned into the soulless creatures that haunted this world. And she shook her head, her voice fierce. "Don't say that. We'll find a way. We'll get you there. You've made it this far." But Caleb's weak smile held no hope, his hand reaching out to grip hers, his voice steady despite the pain. "You're a fighter, Emily, but you need to be smart. I'm a liability now. If I turn while you're asleep, I'll kill you both. You know what you have to do." And the weight of his words crashed over her, the reality of what he was asking, what she'd have to do. And Emily's eyes burned with unshed tears, her voice breaking. I can't do that, Caleb." "You've helped us. You've kept us alive." But Caleb's grip tightened, his voice urgent. "You have to, for Leo, for yourself. I'd rather die a man than become one of those things." And before Emily could respond, a chilling shriek echoed from outside. The infected, drawn by the scent of blood, their snarls growing louder, closer, and May leapt to her feet, her growl fierce, her body tense as she faced the warehouse door, Leo stirring awake, his small voice trembling. "Mom, what's happening?" Emily's instincts kicked in, her machete in hand as she stood, her voice sharp. "Stay with Caleb. Baby, I'll handle this." But Caleb struggled to his feet, his pipe in hand, his voice a growl. "I can still fight. Let me help. One last time." And Emily nodded, her heart breaking as they moved to the door, the infected already clawing at the rusted metal, their decayed hands banging against it, their numbers swelling, at least a dozen. And Emily kicked the door open, her machete swinging, the first infected's head splitting open, black blood spraying, Caleb behind her, his pipe smashing into another, his movements sluggish but determined. May lunging into the fray, her teeth sinking into an infected's leg, dragging it down. But the horde was relentless, their shrieks deafening, and one broke through, its claws slashing at Caleb, his already weakened body stumbling. And Emily fought to reach him, her blade a blur, but it was too late. Caleb's scream cut short as another infected tackled him, its teeth sinking into his shoulder, and Emily's voice was a raw shout. "Caleb!" As she drove her machete through the creature's skull, pulling Caleb back, his blood pooling on the concrete, his eyes glazing over, the infection accelerating, his voice a gasping plea. "Do it! Now, Emily, please!" And with a shishtama, Emily raised her machete, her hands shaking, her vision blurred with tears, and she brought it down, the blade ending Caleb's suffering, his body going still, the silence that followed heavier than any scream. But the infected weren't done. Their attention now on May, who fought valiantly, her barks fierce, but a group of three overwhelmed her, their claws tearing into her flank, her yelp of pain piercing the air. And Emily turned, her grief for Caleb turning to rage, her machete slashing through the infected, her voice a primal scream. "Get away from her!" But it was too late. May's body collapsed, her blood mixing with Caleb's, her loyal heart stilled, and Emily fell to her knees, her sobs racking her body. Leo running to her, his small arms wrapping around her, his voice a broken cry. "Mom, May's gone. She's gone." The desolate stretch of farmland 190 miles south of Atlanta lay barren under a slate-gray November sky in 2040. The fields once golden with corn, now a wasteland of brittle stalks and churned earth. The air heavy with the scent of decay and the distant tang of smoke. A mournful wind whispering through the emptiness. And Emily Carter walked with a hollow determination, her machete strapped to her side, her dark eyes red-rimmed from grief, her once confident stride now a weary shuffle. The weight of losing Caleb and May pressing down on her like a physical burden. Leo clinging to her hand, his small face pale, his brown eyes dull with sorrow, his voice silent since they'd buried May under a pile of stones at the warehouse. The German Shepherds sacrifice a scar on their hearts. The map to Hartsfield-Jackson Airport, now just 90 miles away, creased and worn in Emily's pocket. The promise of a safe zone their only beacon in this unending nightmare. But the world remained merciless, the infected ever present, their shrieks a constant threat. And now, as the farmland gave way to a cluster of dilapidated barns, Emily's instincts sharpened, her voice a low whisper as she squeezed Leo's hand. "Stay close, baby, something's not right." Her eyes scanning the shadows, the barn's sagging roofs and broken doors offering too many hiding spots. And her suspicion proved correct as a group of figures emerged from the largest barn. 5 men and 2 women, their clothes tattered but their weapons, makeshift spears and crowbars, gleaming with intent. Their leader, a wiry man with a scarred face, stepping forward, his voice a sneer. Well, a woman and a kid, all alone. You've got supplies, don't you? Hand them over, and maybe we let you walk away." Emily's heart sank, her grip on the machete tightening, her voice steady despite the fear clawing at her chest. "We don't have much, just a few cans. We're passing through. Let us go. We don't want trouble." But the leader laughed, his group fanning out, their movements predatory, his voice cold. "Trouble's already here. Sweetheart, drop the bag, or we take it off your corpse." And Emily's mind raced, her body tensing, the thought of losing what little they had left, their last can of beans, a half-empty water bottle, the compass, unthinkable. But fighting 7 armed scavengers with Leo at her side was a death sentence, and she made a split-second decision. Her voice a fierce whisper to Leo, "When I say run, you sprint for that ditch over there, don't look back. You hear me?" Leo nodded, his small hand trembling in hers. And Emily turned to the leader, her voice loud. "Fine, you want the bag, come get it." She tossed her pack 20 feet to the side, the scavenger's eyes following it, and in that moment of distraction, She shouted, "Run!" Leo bolted, his small legs pumping as he raced for the ditch 50 feet away. Emily drawing her machete, her body a blur as she charged the nearest scavenger. A woman with a spear, her blade slicing through the woman's arm, the spear clattering to the ground. But the others were on her in seconds, their crowbars swinging, and Emily dodged, her machete parrying a blow, her breath ragged as she fought to buy Leo time. The leader lunging at her, his crowbar aimed at her skull, and she ducked, her blade slashing across his thigh, his scream echoing as he stumbled. But a sharp pain exploded in her side as another scavenger's spear grazed her ribs, blood seeping through her jacket, and Emily gritted her teeth, her rage fueling her voice a primal shout. "You'll pay for that!" On as she drove her machete into the man's chest, his body collapsing, the others hesitating, their confidence shaken, and Emily seized the moment, sprinting for the ditch, her side burning, her vision blurring, Leo's small form already there, his eyes wide with terror, and she dove in beside him, her body shielding his as the scavengers shouted, their voices fading as they retreated, unwilling to chase them into the open. And Emily lay there, her breath coming in sharp gasps, her hand pressing against her side, the wound shallow but painful, her voice a hoarse whisper. "We're okay, baby, we're okay." But Leo's tears fell silently, his small voice breaking. "I miss May. She'd have fought them. She'd have kept us safe." And Emily's heart shattered, her arms pulling him close, her voice trembling. "I know, I miss her too. But we have to keep going. For her, for Caleb, for your dad. We're so close now." And as the wind howled above them, Emily pulled the map from her pocket, her bloodied fingers tracing the route, the airport so near. Yet the road ahead still a gauntlet of danger. The scavengers a reminder that the infected weren't the only threat in this broken world. And she steeled herself, her resolve unbroken, her love for Leo the only thing keeping her alive. The journey to Hartsfield-Jackson Airport, a fight she'd never stop fighting. The rusted gates of Hartsfield-Jackson Airport loomed like a mirage through the early December fog in 2040, their faded signs swinging in the icy wind. The tarmac beyond a graveyard of abandoned planes and scattered luggage. The once bustling hub of Atlanta, now a desolate wasteland 280 miles from where Emily Carter had started. Her dark skin slick with sweat despite the chill, her side throbbing from the spear wound she'd sustained days ago. Her machete gripped tightly in her trembling hand. Leo pressed close to her, his small frame shivering in his torn jacket, his brown eyes wide with a mix of hope and fear. The map they'd followed for weeks now, a tattered relic in her pocket. The promise of a safe zone so close after losing Caleb in May. But the airport was no sanctuary, its perimeter crawling with infected, their decayed forms staggering across the runways, their shrieks echoing through the fog, their numbers in the dozens, drawn by some lingering scent of life. And Emily's heart pounded, her voice a fierce whisper as she crouched behind a toppled baggage cart. "Leo, stay low. We're almost there, but we've got to be smart. You see that hangar over there? 200 feet west. That's where Caleb said the plane is. We're going to make a run for it." Leo nodded, his small hand clutching hers, his voice a shaky whisper. "What if they get us, Mom?" And Emily's jaw tightened, her eyes blazing with determination, her voice steady. "They won't. I won't let them. We've come too far." And she scanned the tarmac, her mind racing, the infected scattered but unpredictable, their jerky movements a constant threat, and she spotted a path through a cluster of rusted fuel trucks 50 feet away, their shadows offering cover if they move fast. And she squeezed Leo's hand, her voice urgent. "On my count, 1, 2, 3, go." They sprinted from their hiding spot, Emily's boots pounding the cracked pavement, Leo's small legs struggling to keep up, the infected turning at the sound, their hollow eyes locking onto them, their snarls rising, and Emily's heart raced, her machete ready as they reached the trucks, ducking behind one just as a group of 5 infected staggered closer, their decayed hands clawing the air, their stench overwhelming, and Emily held her breath, her body shielding Lio. Her voice a barely audible whisper. "Don't move, baby." The infected passing within 10 feet, their shrieks fading as they moved on, and Emily seized the moment, her voice a hushed command. "Now go." They bolted for the hangar, the massive structure looming ahead, its doors ajar, the faint outline of a small Cessna plane visible inside. Caleb's words echoing in her mind. "There's a plane, I've seen it. You can fly it out." But as they reached the entrance, a new threat emerged. A group of infected inside the hangar, at least 10. Their decayed forms hunched over the remains of some unfortunate soul, their heads snapping up at the sound of Emily's footsteps. And she acted on instinct. Her machete swinging as the first one lunged, her blade slicing through its neck, black blood spraying across the concrete. Leo screaming behind her, "Mom!" as another charged, and Emily kicked it back, her machete driving through its chest, her breath ragged, her side burning. But the others were closing in, their numbers overwhelming, and she grabbed Leo, her voice a desperate shout. "Get to the plane, now!" They ran, the infected on their heels, Emily slashing at any that got too close, her strength fading, her vision blurring, and they reached the Cessna, its door hanging open, a small booklet, basic flight manual, tucked into the pilot's seat, Caleb's handwriting scrawled on the cover. "For emergencies," and Emily's heart leapt, her hands shaking as she shoved Lio inside. Slamming the door shut, the infected banging against the plane, their decayed hands smearing the windows. And Emily flipped through the manual, her mind racing, the controls a dizzying array of dials and levers, her voice trembling as she muttered, "I can do this. I have to do this." Leo's small hand on her shoulder, his voice a whisper. "You can, Mom, I know you can." And Emily's resolve hardened, her fingers following the manual's steps, her breath hitching as the engine sputtered to life, the sound drawing more infected, their shrieks deafening, and she pushed the throttle. The plane lurching forward, the infected clawing at the wings, one climbing onto the windshield, its decayed face pressed against the glass, and Emily screamed, her voice raw, "Get off!" As she jerked the controls, the plane swerving, the creature tumbling off, and they taxied onto the runway, the infected swarming behind, their numbers growing, the fog thickening, and Emily's hands shook, her eyes on the manual, her voice a desperate prayer. "Please, please work." As she pulled back on the yoke, the plane lifting off, the ground falling away, the infected shrinking to dots below, and Emily's tears fell, her voice a broken sob. "We did it. Lio, we're flying." The airport fading into the fog, the promise of a new life ahead, but the skies held their own dangers. The journey far from over. The small Cessna plane soared unsteadily through the frigid December sky in 2040, its engine rumbling with a strained whine, the patchwork of a ruined world stretching endlessly below, a desolate expanse of charred forests, abandoned highways, and the faint glint of frozen rivers, the air thin and biting at 5,000 feet, and Emily Carter gripped the yoke with white-knuckled hands, her dark eyes darting between the basic flight manual on her lap and the dizzying array of dials in front of her. Her side still throbbing from the spear wound, her breath fogging in the icy cockpit. Leo huddled in the co-pilot seat, his small body wrapped in a tattered blanket scavenged from the plane, his brown eyes wide with a mix of awe and fear as he stared out the cracked windshield, the map to the safe zone lost in the chaos of their escape from Hartsfield-Jackson Airport, but Caleb's final words echoing in Emily's mind. "Head west, 500 miles, there's an island, a settlement. They'll take you in." And now, with the infected far below, the sky was their only path, but it was no safe haven, the plane's fuel gauge hovering near empty, the needle twitching with every gust of wind, and Emily's heart pounded, her voice a strained whisper as she adjusted the throttle. "We're going to make it. Leo, just a little farther. I promise." Leo's small hand reached for hers, his voice trembling but trusting. "I believe you, Mom. You got us this far." And Emily's chest tightened. Her love for him, the only thing keeping her steady, the memory of May's sacrifice, Caleb's death, and the horrors of the past weeks fueling her resolve. But the plane shuddered violently, a sudden downdraft sending it dipping 200 feet. Lio's scream piercing the cockpit, and Emily yanked the yoke, her voice sharp. "Hold on, baby!" As she fought to stabilize it, the manual slipping to the floor, her hands moving on instinct, the horizon tilting, the engine sputtering, and for a moment she thought they'd plummet, the ground rushing up to claim them. But the plane leveled out, the engine catching with a roar, and Emily's breath came in ragged gasps, her eyes scanning the horizon, a faint smudge of green appearing through the clouds, an island, just as Caleb had described, and her heart leapt, her voice a desperate prayer. "There it is, Leo, that's our new home." But the fuel gauge beeped, a red light flashing, the tank nearly dry, and Emily's mind raced, her hands flipping switches as the manual had instructed, her voice steady despite the panic clawing at her. "We're going to land. Baby, brace yourself. It's going to be rough." The island growing closer, a patchwork of green fields and rocky cliffs, a small settlement visible, smoke rising from chimneys, the first sign of life they'd seen in months. But the plane's descent was too fast, the engine coughing, and Emily aimed for a flat stretch of field, her hands shaking, her voice a shout. "Hold on!" As the wheels hit the ground, the plane bouncing violently, the left wing clipping a tree, metal screeching as it tore free, the fuselage spinning, Leo's scream echoing, and Emily's world tilted, her head slamming against the console, darkness creeping at the edges of her vision. But the plane skidded to a stop, the field a muddy mess around them, the settlement 300 feet away, and Emily's head throbbed, blood trickling down her temple, her voice a weak gasp. "Leo, are you okay?" Leo unbuckled his seatbelt, his small hands shaking as he touched her face, his voice a sob. "I'm okay, Mom, but you're hurt. We made it. We're here." And Emily forced her eyes open, her vision blurry, the sound of footsteps approaching, voices, human voices, calling out, "Diesel, over here, survivors!" And figures emerged from the settlement, men and women, their clothes patched but clean, their faces weathered but kind, their hands carrying rifles but their eyes filled with concern. And Emily's strength gave out, her body slumping as they pried open the door, strong hands lifting her and Lio from the wreckage. A woman's voice gentle, "You're safe now, we've got you. Welcome to Haven Island." And Emily's tears fell, her voice a broken whisper, "We made it. Lio, we're safe." In the settlement, a small community of survivors, 50 strong, their homes built from salvaged wood, their fields thriving with crops, a sanctuary carved out of the apocalypse. And as Emily's wounds were tended, Leo clinging to her side, she felt the weight of their journey lift. The pain of losing May and Caleb still raw but softened by the hope of a new beginning. The island, a promise of life, of healing, of a future where Leo could grow up without fear. And as the sun set over Haven Island, its golden light bathing the fields, Emily held her son close, her heart full. The fight for survival finally over. A new chapter beginning in a world that still held hope. From a deadly escape to a daring flight, Emily and Lio survived the apocalypse, finding hope on Haven Island. Thanks for listening. Please like, share this video, and don't forget to subscribe with notifications on for our latest stories. Your support means the world to us. Your thumb.